expectations are actually the primary driver of bad golf. Is that when you make a mistake in golf because you're not a good golfer, you're not a great golfer, and then you have a meltdown, you think that you should have had a better result.
And I've heard, and I'm not throwing Rob under the bus, but there are times Rob's like, "To hell with growing the game. I want less people on the golf course."
No, I'm not anti-grow the game. I'm anti having all of that growth at the course the same time I am. So as long as they tee off after me.
Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Golf and Politics. We got a great guest today, but before we introduce him to you, Rob, you got a big trip coming up across the pond. Where are you going to be playing overseas?
I'm headed to London. I have a client dinner tomorrow night and a meeting before it. And then I'm meeting up with Rich Levine and Mike Blackham and Mark Bender, all friends of the show, former guests. So we're going to play Sunningdale and Royal St. George's and a couple others over the weekend, and it should be a good trip.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering, if you're watching on YouTube and wondering, where is Matt? I am outside on my front patio because my wife scheduled a piano tuner and I forgot to check the calendar when we scheduled this. So saving you all the pain of hearing the same notes hit over and over and over again. But Rob, last week I had a bucket list week for me. Being from West Virginia, there's a couple courses that I hadn't played. Pete Dye Golf Club's one of them that, obviously for many years has been in the top 100. And that was an experience, probably the most fun I've had on the golf course for a while. Just what a great mixture of not being overly stuffy, a lot of fun environment, a golf course literally built on a coal mine. You can't get more West Virginian than Pete Dye Golf Club. I got to play there with Casey, friend of the program, Dexter Hughes, another guy named Bart who listens to the program, and we had just a blast. Got 36 holes in last Tuesday, played in the rain, and actually played pretty good too. So that was a nice thing for me. But you've played Pete Dye quite a few times, right?
Yeah, I used to be a member. It's a great golf course. I think when you play Pete Dye and the Ocean course at Kiowa, you really understand the brilliance of Pete Dye. And I know a lot of people aren't Pete Dye fans, but he's one of the few architects that you could airdrop somebody onto the course, any Pete Dye course in the world, and within 10 minutes, a relatively untrained eye could say, Pete Dye did this.
Right.
And I think what's great about the diversity between the Ocean course at Kiowa and Pete Dye in West Virginia is that at the Ocean course, he had basic marshland along the coast and created from scratch a world top 30 or 40 course, US top 20 for sure, that can host major championships. And then if you look at Pete Dye in West Virginia, you've got uh, a former coal mine that took almost 17 years to build. And he somehow managed to get 18 great golf holes in, particularly 4 great par fives, which it's really tough to build any great par fives these days that are long enough and still interesting. But he built 4 of them, and he's got his great short par fours, some stout long par fours. The par threes are all in different directions and different lengths. To me, Pete Dye Golf Club is a top 100. I think it's terrific. I wish it was a little closer and easier for me to get to, or I'd still be a member. But overall, just really shows what a talent Pete Dye was, and Alice, his wife, who was heavily involved in it.
I could see myself playing there a lot more in the future, potentially looking into a national membership. It's just, to me, the ultimate fun. It's not my top course I've ever played, but it's in the top 10 for sure. And again, I struggle to find another course that's more fun. I also play Pikewood, and I will talk a lot about it. I will tell you this: it's absolutely stunning. I've never seen a piece of property like that. Didn't even know it existed. I mean, I grew up playing golf in West Virginia, and I think there's a lot of people in West Virginia who don't even know it exists. And that walk is an 8.2 mile walk that was pretty intense, but definitely worth the trip. And I look forward to more of those kind of trips. And I hope you have a great time overseas. And for our listeners, they're probably like, "Oh, Rob's going to Europe to play golf again. No big deal. That's like most of us going to the Muni on a Monday. So
Hey, it's a short flight. I think a lot of people are afraid of it. Like you can fly, it's easier to get to the London Heathland courses than it is Bandon Dunes.
that's
And
true.
I think a lot of people are just intimidated by either the travel, getting the new visa, having their passport updated, knowing how to get around, driving on the wrong side of the road. But really, when you think about it, you can get flights over there for the same price as you can to the West Coast. And the golf courses, we're playing with members at each course. But even if you don't, I mean, you're talking like 30 pounds around, so 40 bucks. I don't know what the exchange rate is now, but it's cheaper to play golf there than it is to go play a fancy resort for 4 days.
Yeah, that's true.
So once you get used to it, you can do it in a way that is just as fast and frankly cheaper.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can attest to that. I'm going to Bandon in September, and it involves multiple different airlines, ship sticks, difficult travel to and from the airport. It's not going to be an easy trip to get back for what I need to get back for, but it's going to be worth it. And so let's go ahead right now. We'll get into our guest for the day. Our guest is Jake Ward. I'm gonna go ahead and read like a little formal introduction here. Jake is the chairman of RxN and the co-founder and CEO of Data Protocol, a learning platform aimed to help developers and developer-led companies succeed. Jake's career began in policy communications. He worked on the Hill as a staffer, evolved to focus on technology, landed in doing entrepreneurship. He's a veteran of many political policy fights. His journey informs his approach to building companies and helping small, dedicated teams of people change the world. Jake also serves as the co-founder and board chair of the Developers Alliance and is a graduate of Wheaton College and Northeastern University. Jake spent his time on the Hill with Senator Olympia Snowe, Congressman Dan Lundgren from California, and Jake is a client of Rob's at 3C, Connected Commerce Council, a nonpartisan trade association with tens of thousands of small business members. Jake and Rob have been working together on this project since 2018, and more recently on the Developers Alliance, a nonpartisan trade association for software developers focused heavily on AI and data privacy policy. Jake's a member at Daniel Island Club in South Carolina, resides in Charleston with his wife Jess and 3 kids, Grayson, Ben, and Tatum. Rob, if you want to kind of talk a little more about your connections with Jake and how you got to know him.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you hit a lot of the key professional aspects, and Jake is obviously a blast to work with. He's one of the smartest people I know, not just in the tech space and politics, but just a really sharp dude. But more importantly than all of that is he's one of my closest friends, a brother from another mother. He's loyal, fun, a good time to play golf with. Has had me down multiple times to Daniel Island Club for their fall hunt and their spring chase tournaments. I think we'll get another bite at the apple at that sometime soon, hopefully. But really, just a good dude, friend of the show, and has a lot of interesting takes on today's politics and policy and the game of golf. So he's right up our alley.
Jake, welcome to the program.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, Jake, I'll kick it off here. In doing my research for the show, I was looking at your handicap on Ginn, and you're a 6.8. But to me, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, wow, what a great member guest invite Jake would be, because your consistency, man, is unbelievable. Especially looking at your last 5 rounds. I mean, very, very consistent. Always get your number. Is that why Rob and you have played so many member guests together? And I'm sure you guys have brought in your share of pro shop credit at those events.
We've played a lot of member guests together, mostly because it's a really good time. The truth is, we have never been playing well at the same time for these member guests. My spring chase is actually this weekend that Rob's missing by going to Europe, but he is slotted for the fall hunt, which will be in September as a warm up to MG Cup. So the Daniel Island member guests tournaments are incredible. They are 3 days of debauchery and a really good time. I joke that Daniel Island is a drinking club with a golf problem, but they know how to throw a party.
Yeah, and Jake, tell us right now, what are the strengths of your golf game in 2025, and what are you working on?
I'm hitting it really good right now. As you know, Rob, I have struggled sometimes losing it off the tee, sort of mid round, just melting down for a little bit and just losing balls right. I'm I've been working. So 6 years ago, I got as low as I've ever been. I was a 4. I was scoring really well. Uh, Rob was actually working on my short game a bunch. So even if I'd hit it sideways for a couple of holes, I was never out of a hole. And I worked with a instructor that I really liked, but who didn't communicate the changes very well to me, and so I beat the hell out of balls for 2 years trying to get square at the top and figure out what my release point was, and then I started working with Rob's coach, Mike at RTJ, and within, I don't know, 6 weeks, it was like, "Oh, that's how a golf swing's supposed to feel. That's the center of the face. I got it." And now I can hit it both ways off the tee, which feels really good, and, my distances have climbed pretty dramatically in the last 6 months. Um, the bad news is when you fall in love with being able to crush balls at the range, you don't seem to get over to the short game area as often because you just love watching the ball soar through the trees. But I'm working more on having all the shots around the green right now, Rob. I feel like I got rusty. I lost confidence in hitting like low spinners. And can you get it to check? Can you throw it up there? All the stuff around the green, and it was costing me 3, 4, 5 strokes around.
So I know South Carolina has had a recent golf boom, and there are a million great places to play within 30 minutes of you, within a couple hours. But what are your favorite places, if you give me a couple, to travel to play, either resorts or somewhere else? And then what are a couple on the list that you've yet to get to that you'd like to see?
Sure. So, actually, a couple of these are yours. Fox Chapel is one of my favorite courses in the world. I'm a huge Seth Rayner fan. We have a couple down here. The Country Club and Yeamans Hall are both Rayners, and they're terrific. But I love playing Fox Chapel. Huge fan. Not surprisingly, then Fairfield Country Club in Connecticut that we played this summer just took my breath away. Like the way that they laid it out right up to the water's edge and the routing was incredibly uh an easy walk, an incredibly easy walk. It's all flat, right? There's not much topography there, but the course defends itself given what it has. So I enjoyed that tremendously. I played Olympic this summer and really enjoyed that. Cal Club, which is a McKinsey original, is one of my favorite courses in the world. I would play that every day and be perfectly happy to never go anywhere else. I've played all the abandoned tracks. I'm sure you've been there before. That's going to be a great time. We played actually.
It'll be
We
my
played.
first time. I'm pretty pumped about
Is
it.
your first time? Oh,
Yeah,
you're
it'll
gonna
be
have
my
such
first
a good
time.
time. We played Sheep Ranch from provisional tees before they even put them in the ground. That was a treat. Um, I've been there. I've been there a few times. My college roommate and I'm gonna ride on his coattails, but we founded the Caddie Now app, and so when Caddie Now got bought by the Dormy Club, Dave did a lot of stuff with the PGA, and they would bring him out there every year in October, and we started to go on those trips. So I've been there, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. It's a really good time.
Can you
Um,
tell us? I'm unfamiliar with Caddie Now, and I'm a member at Dormy, but I would love to know
so
about the app.
Yeah, so the app was pretty simple Uber for caddies, right? Is the idea that if you go anywhere you go, you should be able to have a caddy. Clubs that don't have a caddy program, great. We'll go train a bunch of kids. You can search up a loop and bring them in. Now the truth is that part of the business was never going to be that big, right? There's not enough demand for it. Carts have overtaken it. But the idea was to build a SaaS program on the backside in which you could schedule a caddy and pay a caddy and indemnify a caddy workforce. So anytime you've gone to Dormy and you've had a caddy, which you have, they were notified you were coming on Caddie Now. They were paid on Caddie Now, and all of that transaction took place on the app. Um,
The club, in other words, is doing that work
it is
to get the
now.
caddies.
It is now.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. 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 But you used to be able. I mean, Muirfield Village used Caddie Now. Like all these. I can't remember the number of courses that actually adopted the system, but then Dormy bought it, and then the whole unit was purchased from them. So in a secondary transaction, by Caddie Master. So that all now resides, the software and the program and all that stuff now resides with them.
Where do you land on the whole debate about caddies versus carts? Do you think the carts have hurt the game, helped the game, mixture of both?
Mixture of both. I mean, it certainly made some courses manageable, right? It's opened the game for people that can't walk 18. I would always prefer to walk. I would always prefer to have a caddy and to treat golf as that activity. But if you're gonna go whip around 9 holes and you're bringing your kid, then you need a cart, right?
Yeah.
And, there are times when the course doesn't allow it. So you think about, I mean, even Shadow Creek, right? Rob, we played there last year. That would be a hard walk all the time. A cart makes that a manageable golf course. Um, so it opens up some more space. There's times when you're trying to fit in 72 holes in 3 days, or you can't walk every every hole. So that's fine. But our central thesis was play golf the way it was meant to be played, and that's walking with a caddy.
I think it's a very fair assessment because, I mean, yeah, you do need carts at certain courses for sure. And ultimately, a place like Pikewood, you can't, I mean, there are no carts. So like you just can't play it. If you're not up to walking 8 hard miles, you're just not going to play it.
Okay.
Now, where I get frustrated is that Rob and I talked about this on a recent podcast. His dad grew up at the local club in our community, caddying and making some money and also learning the game the way it's
Yeah.
meant to be played, in my opinion. By the time Rob and I were kids, they had done away with the caddy program, and it's only carts there now. And I remember at one point in time, and I don't know if this is still the case, Rob, but you weren't allowed to even walk Williams Country Club. If you made a tee time as a member, you had to ride. It was just all riding. And that's and not that hard of a walk for West Virginia golf. Like, to me, it would make so much more sense to have young kids out there carrying the bag, learning the game, and it helps really pass down a great tradition. But I feel like in so many of the more lower level clubs, caddies have just gone by the wayside.
I would
I
have.
think that
Yeah,
I was just
I would have loved having a caddy program as a kid to work. I mean, I ended up working at Blackmore, changing metal spikes to soft spikes for everybody that came in. That was back when like people only bought one pair of golf shoes.
If I
for
remember
every
right, Blackmore was the
15 years.
first club in the Valley that it was mandatory to wear soft spikes. I think I remember that as a kid. If I'm
Yeah,
not
Jake, you'll
mistaken.
appreciate this. Everybody used to be a John Potter and have one pair of golf shoes for 20 years. And
ugly
so
white ones.
you'd have to muscle out those old hard spikes and put the soft ones in, and then
Hope you didn't strip it out, you know?
I would gas up the carts, pick the driving range. Um, I would I was once like a short order cook in the halfway house, and then I worked maintenance, which is where you could make the most money. Um, Fixing water lines and raking bunkers and cutting greens and tees. I can't believe they let me do that, but I did. And I learned a lot about the business of golf doing that. I was pretty inquisitive, but I would have loved caddying, and it's a real shame that we don't. On the golf carts, the only thing I would add is like if you guys come to RTJ, obviously the morning round we play, you want to walk with a caddy, but after lunch, if you want to go back out, it's great to have a couple carts, load them up with cocktails, get some music going, and just kind of whip around before the sun goes down. So I do see the balancing act there of some benefit on the cart front.
I'm a huge fan of the sort of the value of caddies as learners. We did a lot of training, like more than 2,000 caddies over 5 or 6 years. Dave personally trained a lot of them. It's the show up, shut up, keep up mentality of caddies, right? But you get that idea. You look somebody eye, shake your hand, you answer the question, you think ahead, you plan. I'll rake this bunker, you go hit your putt. Like there's a lot of different things that you do. It's not like they're giving yardages. They're carrying the clubs and they're trying to be part of the process. So for kids, it's tremendous. I I don't believe that playing in a cart makes you faster, like as a general rule. But I think that carts and the explosion of golf in the 80s, sort of post Jack's last Masters, and all these people just bought clubs and decided to slap it around. We have more bad golfers than we've ever had. And if you're going to carry 20 balls out there to drop them every time you throw one into the woods, a cart makes that faster. But for anybody that's even a sub 14 handicap, it is faster to walk. There's no question about it.
Mixing in your main expertise, you have many. We could have spent a half hour on your bio, um, but on technology and golf. And I had a chance to learn recently that Augusta National Golf Club partners with McKinsey Consulting and with Disney World on setting up their concessions for food, their bathroom operation, and all their merchandise center. And they're getting down, I mean, using digital technology to better run a golf tournament. And then on the game itself, we have people with their own little mini TrackMans on their iPhones. Where do you see technology's role in golf? How far we've come and where we're going next? And do you have any concerns with maybe an overuse of technology in such an old game?
From a business perspective, I think that it's always a good idea, right? Like creating efficiencies, particularly for an industry that has so much churn, right? The vast majority of rounds played and courses that make money are consolidated. We play most of the rounds. Everybody else plays once a year, right? And so you've got sort of this 90-10 rule of outlaid capital and travel and rounds played and the things that we do. That's a hard industry to manage. And the explosion of courses, they're not shutting down golf courses. There's new ones going up all the time, right? So how do we adjust to that saturation of availability while the prices remain so high? You better create efficiencies in the market and you better create an experience that makes it worthwhile. So Disney is exactly who you call to have that conversation, right? In terms of technology in the game itself, I had one of those TrackMan devices in my garage, as you know, Rob, and I would pound balls into a net, and it didn't help at all. The problem, so I would groove a swing that I felt really good of, and I liked my numbers a lot, and then I'd get on the course and feel like I was walking on the moon. And the lie's a little different, and you've changed your angle, and you're looking at a target now instead of looking directly at the ball. The game can only be played as it is intended to be played. It can be practiced in a bunch of different ways, but you have to just play rounds. I mean, you've
Yeah.
told me this 100 times. Just you go play and post a score, and then go do it again, go do it again, go do it again.
I'll give you an example of, I think, why technology doesn't necessarily achieve what you want. I'm more of a feel player and I don't like to get overly technical. And recently we've been changing my path and delivery a little bit to hit draws because I don't want to give up 20 yards. So I'm trying to draw the ball more. And Mike McGetrick and I over the weekend were on TrackMan and I kept getting frustrated with my numbers because what I felt was right wasn't working. And so he shut it off and he grabbed a bucket of balls and we went outside of his bay and hit off the grass. And he said, I want you to pretend there's a pine tree 100
Okay.
yards in front of you right there. I want you to hit me a high draw around it. Just think high and think draw. And I started banging high draws.
Yeah.
And it's something I couldn't do focused on like the path and club face numbers on the TrackMan. It was driving me nuts. And I think that there's something to being able to read what you're doing wrong just based off the ball flight, where it's starting, how it's turning, how high it is, how low it is. And sometimes you just have to eyeball it. Like you learn that a lot playing overseas, where like to me, a caddy doesn't help you at Ballybunion
Yeah.
because if it's 170 yards into the teeth of the wind, it could be a 3-wood. If it's 170 yards downwind, it could be a pitching wedge. And you've got to be able to have that feel and that ability to adjust off a different lie, a different slope, different conditions. And I'm not saying technology is bad on the swing. I think there's a lot of good to it. I don't think it lies without a doubt. But people need to be able to feel and adapt on the course. Matt, I don't know about you. You're a big tech guy.
No, I mean, I see the pros and cons of it too. Like if you are uh, just working on TrackMan, you're missing out. Like I have a detailed practice plan for what I need to accomplish every week to get to become a scratch golfer from a 4. It includes being in the TrackMan multiple hours a week. I spend hours a week in there, and it there are certain things that are tangibly realize on the golf course. Wedge yardages, for instance. Honing in a 50, 60, 70, 80-yard wedge swing with my 56 has been invaluable. Like, I've become a lot better on those shots than I was without using TrackMan over the last 6 months. But I would tell you that driver, I got to get out. I have to get out, and I have to visualize a fairway, and I have to work on alignment, because I can get my numbers looking really good and do well on a driver test on TrackMan and go out the next day and hit every single shot dead right because my alignment is not on. So I need to get on a range, and I need to hope that I'm getting a wind off my left so that I can learn where my alignment needs to be to hit my fade but not over slice it. And same thing with the wind off my right and wind in my face, wind at my back. I need to have those experiences on the golf course to really hone in the driver. So it's not wasted being on the TrackMan, but it can't be the only thing that you're doing in order to succeed, in my opinion.
I promise when Rory hit that 6 on 15 at the Masters, he wasn't thinking, I need to get to this degree closure.
Yeah.
He was just thinking, I can't hit that branch.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and one other, like, so you talk about technology being good for the game. These are the kind of technology aspects that I think are going to be revolutionary. It's going to be in the television viewing of golf, right? I mean, just adding a shot tracer has improved watching golf on television tremendously. I was watching The Truist this weekend, and they had a new feature, and it was only on the Golf Channel. It wasn't on CBS. And granted, I didn't watch hours and hours of it, but I can't remember who it was. He had a 55-foot putt, and it put a circle around the hole of where he needed to land that putt in order to gain strokes on the field. It was a 4-foot radius. So, like, you start to think through, even the pros are going to 3-putt from 52 feet. So, like, if you're out playing on a weekend and you got a 52-foot putt and you leave it 6 feet short, that's not the worst putt in the world. You shouldn't be screaming at yourself like you're the worst golfer. You did exactly what a 4, 5, 6 handicapper should do on that putt. And I think having some of those things worked into the golf broadcast will help golfers manage their expectations. Like guys like Lou Stagner, in my opinion, are invaluable for golf, for guys like us to manage our expectations on what we should expect when we get out there.
And expectations are actually the primary driver of bad golf. Is that when you make a mistake in golf because you're not a good golfer, you're not a great golfer, and then you have a meltdown, you think that you should have had a better result. You don't control what happens when it hits the ground. Like, hit the shot, hit the ball, and walk up and hit it again. If the expectation gets in the way in between, you're going to be hitting it a few more times.
Absolutely. That's a great quote. Hey, I got a follow-up question. You said something that there was an explosion in golf after Jack won the 86 Masters. And then obviously there was an explosion in golf after Tiger came on the scene. And then I think we're seeing another explosion of golf post-COVID where people got outside and got hooked by golf. And, I think when people get out there and play, like my son, who's 18, has never really taken up golf. Yesterday we went and played 9 holes. He hit a couple really good shots. He ended up going out and hitting balls under the lights with his friends at the Muni. Yeah. He wants to go tonight when I'm done working and go over and work on our chipping. Like, all of a sudden, it's sucked him in. Do you think that's good for golf or bad for golf? Because I think there is this rub, right, of, we need to grow the game. And I've heard, and I'm not throwing Rob under the bus, but there are times Rob's like, to hell with growing the game. I want less people on the golf course.
It's the one thing Donald Trump and I agree on, besides plastic straws and faucet pressure on showers. No, I'm not anti-grow the game. I'm anti having all of that growth at the course the same time I am. So as long as they tee off after me.
Rob, the courses you're playing, I don't think you got to worry about that on a regular basis. But
yeah, Rob doesn't even park his car. He certainly isn't going to wait for a tee time. You know what, Matt? I don't have any problem with that. I think the game speaks to some people and it filters out others, right? The folks that play once a year at an event, they go to a charity event or somebody buys a round at whatever. They're not jamming up tee sheets, right? They don't want to play. If they wanted to play, they'd play. It's the person at the driving range every 2 weeks that tries to play golf 5, 6, 10 times a year. I want that person to play more golf, right? I want that person to have more opportunity to play golf at a reasonable price. And if they want to get better, to get better. The truth is, most people are only trying to get incrementally better, right? I just want to be able to have fun. And there's a point in everybody's sort of golf career where, like, I just want to be able to get around. But we're still in this place where it's like, I can get to scratch, or in Rob's case, it's like, I'm gonna be plus, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna, and so it's, for me, like, I wanna get back to a 4, but as soon as I get to a 4, I'm gonna wanna get to a scratch again. And it's like that but the truth is all I wanna do is play well. I just wanna play well. And that means lowering your expectations a little bit, but staying focused and managing, like, this is what's in front of me, this is what I need to achieve to shoot this goal. The next shot is the only one that matters. I think technology has a lot to do with that in terms of understanding where the golf course is, but really the game just speaks to people and to a certain type of person. It's all they want to do
Right.
is hit golf balls.
Me too. That's me. But here's one thing where I think the rub is that's wrong. I'm all for growing the game. I want everybody who wants to play golf playing. The more people playing golf, the more courses are going to be out there, the more enjoyment for all of us, in my opinion. I think that golf is poorly managed at times.
Sure.
I think they get overwhelmed. Like my home club this weekend, I'm playing in the group in front of me. We allow fivesomes at our club. In the group in front of me, every member of that fivesome is over 70 years old. Okay, they're slow. There's just nothing they can do about it. In one breath, I'm really excited that they're out there and playing. The other side of it is I look ahead and there's 2 open holes and everybody's jammed up and it turns into a 4-hour and 50-minute round of golf, which is unacceptable. That might be acceptable at some courses. It's not acceptable at a 6,700 yard, 130 slope rating course. Okay. Technology should have solved that problem. Every cart has a GPS. Every cart, if you're sitting in the clubhouse, you can see where everybody is on the course. How do we not come up with some better technology or management of that technology to come and tell people, hey, you're going to have to move it ahead. You're slowing everybody up. Let this group through. I think there's a lack of marshals and management in a lot
Well,
of
that's
courses.
a culture problem, not a technology problem. That's the limitation of execution running into expectation of service. And that the game is supposed to be played largely without a clock. And it's supposed to be enjoyable at and if it's a club, it's a place you play dues. Last thing you want to do is be shooing people around that paid you $60,000 to join and have a bill every month, right?
Right.
But the truth is the reality is that the vast majority of golf in this country for a long time was run ostensibly by gym teachers, right? People that just didn't want to have real jobs. They wanted to
Okay.
work outside. They wanted to hit golf balls. They wanted to be in this place. Smart enough people, certainly, but not innovators, not people that are trying to change the industry. They liked it exactly the way that it was. But if you're going to charge $300 a round, you're going to be pressured to speed up the thing. If you're going to charge $100,000 to join a club, not only are you going to be catered to, but you better be able to do the thing you joined the club to do in the first place, which is play golf. And so to that degree, I think culture has to evolve to meet an expectation of faster rounds of golf. I've always, when is it Ricky Fowler that's big on, like, let's let 12 holes is actually a great number of holes to play, or 6 holes, and taking the 18 out and just chopping it up in a different sort of way. I think that's really interesting. I think that that's a fascinating way to introduce people to the game. So if you're a fivesome with 70-year-olds, how about we don't play 18 today?
Yeah.
How about we play 12? And we'll drop you into this tee time where you can play with a cart, or you can walk. You can use one of these tempo walkers. You can play with a fivesome, etc. But you are capped at 12 holes because you've been flagged as too slow. And here's where
I think look, 9 holes is a great number. Like my son yesterday, who shot a very generous 58 with some mulligans, and hey, kick it out here and hit a shot. He had a great time, and I don't think he would have enjoyed 3 more holes. I think he ended on a high note, hit a couple good shots. He can't wait to come back. But 18 maybe would have discouraged him because he probably would have gotten into some bad habits, start missing, and it gets more difficult. I think that's a great point.
The first part of Jake's response reminded me of one of life's great lessons. Those who can't teach. Those who can't teach gym. But
now that we've offended any gym teachers that are listening to our program.
But at RTJ, we ran into the problem Jake discussed about, we'd send our assistant pros out to marshal, but they're afraid of the members. They're afraid to turn in a member. They don't want to get fired or have someone mean at them for enforcing the rules. So what we did was we used technology and every caddy has a tracker. And if a member goes over 4 hours for their round, they get what I call snail mail, do better letter in the mail. And if you get enough of those, you lose tea time privileges at certain parts of the day or certain days of the week. And that enforces it on their own. And what the assistant pros do is they drive out on the course, and if they can tell somebody's behind, they'll make sure that the club knows that it wasn't your fault. If you go over 4 hours and it's because the two groups in front of you sucked, it'll be those groups that get the snail mail or the do better letter. And I think that's a way of allowing technology to police
Sure.
for it, where people may be afraid to upset a customer or a member.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, hey, Jake, before we get into Shotgun 9, just a couple more questions. And I want to kind of tie two questions together here. One, just briefly talk about how you made a transition from being a staffer on Capitol Hill to a tech guru. And then number two, I think there's still a lot of confusion around AI, where it's obviously infiltrating into every aspect of everything that we do in life. And I think there's a set of people that are maybe completely afraid of it, just irrational fears of AI. And then there's probably other people on the other side of the spectrum that think AI can do everything and don't, cautiously look at some of the problems that could arise from AI. So again, just talk about your journey and then address one aspect of technology, AI, maybe explain it on a fifth grade level so our listeners can understand like what is available now, what's coming down the pike, and what are some cautions we have to look out for.
Sure. So, I was working for Olympia Snow in 2006 during the net neutrality fight, the sort of the original fight. That's where that clip of Ted Stevens saying the internet is not a dump truck, it's a series of tubes comes from. You guys remember that? The T-shirt and all that? So that clip is during a net neutrality Commerce Committee hearing. He was responding to a question that Olympia asked him. We, Snow's press office, actually took that clip and sent it to the Daily Show, and that's how it ended up as this whole thing. We were the lone Republican in favor of net neutrality protections. As a result, I got pretty deep into the weeds on how the internet worked. Within, I guess, 8 or 9 months later, I left the Hill and went to work at Corvus, which is a public affairs firm in town. My boss, Maura Corbett, she's a guru in this space. Like, she's doing this forever and ever, and she's incredible. And so I learned how all of that worked. The other side of my portfolio was international crisis stuff. So I did a lot of work with Equatorial Guinea and Mexico and Saudis, and that's how my career was moving for a while, like 50% on either side, until I co-founded this group called the Application Developers Alliance in 2012, with the aforementioned John Potter, the idea being to create an advocacy group for software developers. At the time, the stores had just sort of come online. The like button was maybe 18 months old. Like this was nascent. This was early Halcyon days, right? And we were doing a lot of privacy work, a lot of patent stuff, thinking about what mobile app as an ecosystem would look like. BlackBerry was a board member, to let you know how far back we went. So through that space, I got very familiar with hundreds of startups. I worked with the guys at Techstars and a lot of different VCs. Companies that I was working with became publicly traded. Some got gobbled up, and so I spent a lot of time with these folks. And I thought, I want to do that. I want to try and do that. So I left in 2017 and started Data Protocol, which, as you mentioned before, is this platform for software developers to engage with their partners. So we handle a lot of the Meta Horizon developer ecosystem in partnership with Meta. We work with folks at Google and did a bunch of stuff with Intel and their Cloud U program. It's fun. It's startup life is hard. I don't know about tech guru, but startup life is hard. I still maintain a foot in the world of public affairs as it relates to tech. I'm the chairman of the Developers Alliance. I get sort of emeritus status there for founding it. I founded the Connected Commerce Council, so I still contribute a lot. And now that I run a small business, I can be part of those conversations from an operational standpoint. And then I still work with the guys that help me organize a lot of those things at the ArcSend group. So I stay pretty busy and try to stay plugged into the policy fights. Rob is certainly the driving factor on all of that for me and tells me what to pay attention to. And I try to just listen we don't we are nonpartisan in every way. We are very pro innovation, very pro small business and leveled playing field. I'm from a very small town in northern Maine, and I believe pretty strongly in sort of the power of community and the idea of reaching past geographic borders to build industry, and technology is what enables all of that. It drives a lot of my decisions and interests.
So
Um,
if you're the tech industry's Ray Donovan, what does that make me? Does that make me Terry or Bunch or
Certainly not Bunch. Certainly
or
not Bunch.
Mick? Or are you Mickey? Are you Mick? And I well, you brought up one of my second favorite Senate moment of the series of tubes. I think my first favorite was when Senator Isaacson brought a snowball on the Senate floor to prove that global warming doesn't exist. That might have been my second favorite. But, it's a very complex set of issues: AI, data privacy, competition. Um, what do you think is the most effective way to communicate incredibly nuanced policy to a lot of octogenarians,
Sure.
frankly, and whatever it is to be over 90 now, because there's now a key senator over 90? What do you think is the most effective way to explain very complex issues to these folks?
It's always grounding it in real world examples, right? For the Connected Commerce Council, for example, we tell small businesses all the time, don't try to say I use Mailchimp to do this and Google Analytics to do this, and this is how we power our e-commerce platform. Bring somebody into your store, into your office, and say, this is how I run my supply chain. I push this button on this computer, and supplies or widgets that I need to build this thing go here, and then I ship it over there when people buy it. I never have to touch it. I can just sell it. See how easy that is? That grounds the idea of a small business tech stack for an octogenarian or for a member that has no experience in tech and may look at sort of technology as a winner takes all industry, and it's just not, right? It is vertical integration at its truest form. Nobody just uses one platform. Nobody is only picking one advertising platform. That would be insane. The average online seller, for example, works with 5 platforms, 5 e-commerce platforms. Amazon is certainly one of them. Shopify is always one of them. There are 3 others. That's average. Try and explain that to a member who doesn't buy things online, they just sort of show up at their house, you have a problem, right? The, uh, ubiquity of large technology companies often drowns out the value of technology as a whole. AI is, for example, Matt, you asked this question, what explain AI? The easiest way is, sort of smart automated systems that everything that you do can be done faster and more efficiently, and it will feel like it has a mind of its own. But it's the feel like it has a mind of its own part that scares the shit out of people. Is the idea that the computers can turn against us, that they can make decisions, etc. But that's not what should scare us. What should scare us is that they're wrong,
Hmm.
that they
Sure.
hallucinate, that the machine literally will it can't tell whether or not it's wrong. All it can give you is answers to questions you ask. You have to then go validate whether or not it's true. Whether that's generative AI, like, write me a briefing on this, or it's search and tell me a story about this, it can lie to you because it doesn't have a moral compass. It doesn't know what's real and not. It only produces outcome. The need for humanity to be injected into AI is foundational. But that's not new either, right? That's automated systems. That's computers. That's the thing that we've been doing for 70 years. We shouldn't be afraid of this, but there is no downside to also not thinking that this is tech Jesus and it's going to save us all.
I actually asked ChatGPT a question this morning, and it gave me a wrong answer, and I wrote back, "That's not correct," and it wrote back, "Sorry, you're right," and it said it's been updated. I was asking how a 9-hole score is calculated on your handicap. I wanted to understand the formula of how they predict what your back nine would be, and it gave me the wrong answer. It gave me the old thing, and it was kind of interesting how it apologized to me
Yeah.
for giving me the wrong answer.
So I've got one more question before we kick into the shotgun nine. And of course, if I need more time, I'll completely bastardize the shotgun 9 and twist it. But we have a chance to talk regularly on politics, but mostly focused toward tech. So outside of tech policy, what grade would you give Trump and the Republican Congress through the first 110 days? I mean, you're traditionally a Republican. You work, for Republicans. What's your overall assessment of how things are going?
It's hard to imagine that it could go worse, honestly, Rob. I mean, as a Republican, none of this is conservative, right? My challenge with Trump 1 and now particularly with Trump 2 is these are not Republican values. This is not small government. This is not individual liberty and empowerment. This is something else, right? This is grievance politics and a cult of personality thing that really bothers me and scares me, frankly. But it annoys me more than anything to watch other conservatives, fellow conservatives, drink the Kool-Aid and ask for more because it makes them feel good, right? And that the idea that politics has crossed the Rubicon and we are now a TV show and that the pursuit of statesmanship is dead is very worrisome for me. I think this kerfuffle, it's a tragedy in India, Pakistan, but our kerfuffle to say we brokered a peace deal and both India and Pakistan said we have no idea what you're talking about is exactly where I leave the party, right? Is the trying to take credit for things you're not doing, trying to spread disinformation to be aggrandizing of your own achievements is not what we used to do, right? This isn't Reagan's party anymore. I don't know what this is, but it's gross.
The frustrating thing for me, and this is something that Matt and I both have lived through, is we worked for a great guy in Congress who went to jail, made mistakes, was a hardworking guy, bipartisan, did a lot of great things, but he fucked up. He paid his debts to society. And then I read this weekend that the Qataris are gifting a $400 million 747 that the president can use post-presidency, and that Donald Trump Jr. is opening a private club for $500,000 a pop in Georgetown for insiders to curry favor. And Trump has made $3 billion since being sworn in. And then all the shit Hillary took for having a private email account. We have the Secretary of Defense using Signal and a journalist being on the chat. And MAGA supporters are like, no big deal, nothing to see here. When they know for a fact, if Barack Obama or Joe Biden did a fraction of that, we wouldn't be talking about anything else other than them going to prison. It would be lock him up, impeach, throw the keys away. And there's just this loss of values. Like, as long as we do it, it's okay. If they do it, it's this selective values and morality that really gets under my skin. But I'm not the guest today. I'll let you comment on that.
Hypocrisy only matters if you have the ability to feel shame.
It's a good point. Matt, I'll let you jump in since you.
I don't have time to get into it right now. Look, I understand where Jake's coming from. Doesn't mean I agree with everything he's saying. I've made my points really clear on every episode.
Matt, look, I'd vote for
any
Republican. I'd vote for any Republican on the ticket ahead of Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I mean, right. Yeah,
I just would. Trump's not a Republican.
I've always said all along he's not nobody's said he's a conservative. I mean, he's never, even Rush Limbaugh when he first ran in 2016, nobody claimed he was a conservative. He's a populist. There's no doubt about that.
He's a fascist.
So I wouldn't say. I mean, saying he's a fascist, I think is way overboard. That's crazy.
Look up the definition of fascist.
Look up the definition of fascist.
Yeah,
the propaganda, the use of government forces, the propaganda, the disinformation, the control over individual liberty and states capitulating to the executive branch is the definition of fascist. He looked at the state governor of Maine and said, "You're either going to do what I tell you to do, or I'm going to take away money from you."
What's wrong? That happens all the time. If you have money tied to federal policy and you don't abide by federal policy, you don't get the money.
But it's not federal policy.
It's not policy.
It's an executive.
Yeah, how many executive orders were there during COVID under Biden that you had to abide by or you weren't getting the money? Plenty. Happens all the time.
Nowhere
Name
near
one.
this.
Just
and
name
those
one.
that were,
Okay.
And those
Name
that
one.
were struck
Just
down
one.
by. Yeah,
Matt,
and
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Right.
But name one state that didn't get federal dollars because they didn't capitulate with the policy under Biden.
Well, most states just capitulated. I don't know that there was ever. I mean,
there were 30 that waved flags and said we're not doing those things. Florida, a huge chunk of Texas, they were a little late, but they got there.
You could be right. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't get it, but I don't believe that you can call this fascism. You can't. Part of the problem of why your party will continue to lose, in my opinion, is that you continue to call us or not your party, but Rob's party, is that they call Trump a fascist. That's just a ridiculous. That's a ridiculous argument. A ridiculous starting point.
You know, people that were part of Hitler's rise and interoperation that came on board, they didn't think they were fascists or what they were doing was wrong. And what Trump is doing hasn't risen to that level. But if you continue
you just hit it. You just hit it. It hasn't risen to that level.
But,
there we go.
Did you ever call Obama a socialist?
In a joking manner. I never really thought that he was a socialist. I think he's a liberal.
I think that by most standards, we would take him as a conservative Democrat these days.
He would be a conservative Democrat, that's for sure.
And by the way, pointing to the Democratic Party is irrelevant because one, I don't speak for the Democratic Party, and two, there is no Democratic Party.
They are irrelevant. That's right.
Republicans trying to deflect attention to Democrats is so silly. The country has given you the House, the Senate, the presidency, the courts. You're in control of everything. So the heat is coming, and the heat is going to continue to come. Either you deliver or you don't. And
I said that all along.
What I see is somebody that's taking credit for trade deals that don't exist, taking credit for messes that he started, and sending legal permanent residents to frickin' gulags and Salvadoran prisons with no due process. That is fascist.
Well, I'm happy that we're getting rid of illegal criminals from the United States, and he's delivering on exactly what he said he was going to do. There's nothing that Trump has done that he didn't campaign on and tell the American people that he was going to do. I'm also
prices aren't going down.
I'm glad the stock market's up 1,100 points this morning as we're sitting here talking.
So that's nice.
Let's get on to the Shotgun 9. Let's kick it off. Look, this week, by the time this airs on Wednesday of this week, will be the night before the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow. I'm picking Jon Rahm. Rob is picking Rory. First question is Shotgun 9. Jake, who are you picking to win the PGA Championship
I got Rory.
this year?
I got Rory.
Well.
I think he's swinging as free as he has since he was 19 years old, and that he's the best player in the world when he's on.
I agree with that 100%. Although I'm not picking him to win, I think Jon Rahm has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. Everybody has made these comments like he's trash since he went to LIV. He's never finished outside the top 10 on a LIV event. He's actually done fairly well at majors, finished in the top 10 in multiple majors. It's just because he hasn't won. He's kind of been the poster child for he's not a player anymore, and the dude can still play golf. I think he'll be in competition.
He's great. Rahm is great.
Quail Hollow favors a high draw, and Rory can hit a high draw better than anybody.
That's true.
I think Rory or Bryson probably have the best chance. All right, Jake, give me 3 dream courses you've not played that you want to play.
I have not done the Peninsula. We have to go play Spyglass and Spanish Bay, and I have to play Pebble. We have to go do that trip soon. It is a glaring hole in my resume. It's a little trite to say those are the 3, but actually call those 1, and then we need to go do LA, right? We got to do Bel Air and Riv.
Absolutely.
All right, my question is MG Cup the greatest corporate outing in America every year?
I think so. I can't imagine one that would be better.
I love that. We could end the show right now. I'm gonna steal the question Matt always asks. Dream foursome. It's got to be a politician, celebrity, and professional athlete, alive or dead.
Phew. Okay. Steph Curry, John Boehner. Is the other one celebrity? Just celebrity singer.
Or no, Professional golfer.
Oh,
profe-
you know, the answer would be Tiger forever and ever and ever. Uh, I'd like to play with Rory. Like, I'd like to get in his head for 4 or 5 hours and kick the tires on that. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Although I bet Shane Lowry would be a good time too. You can get Rory stories and really drunk.
I like it.
All right, so you mentioned John Boehner. I have a feeling he might be an answer to this question, but let's imagine over the last 25 years of Congress, so both House and Senate, there's going to be a Ryder Cup match between the Republicans and the Democrats. Who do you pick as the captain of the Republican team and the captain of the Democrat team?
It's definitely Boehner for the Republicans. It's a good question on the Democrat side. I think Stenny's pretty good, isn't he? I'm not sure. I played a lot of golf with Democratic members. Now that I think about it.
Well, Joe Biden's still a 6.
Oh, is he? Is he?
Trump has seen his swing. He's not a 6. He's not a 6.
Actually, we're going back 25. We'll take Barack. We'll take Obama.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, he's if we're going back that far,
Okay.
that'd be fun. God, they would talk so much shit.
I like it. 2028, if you were advising the Democrats on an ideal candidate and the Republicans on someone to challenge JD Vance, who would those candidates be?
I mean, obviously Newsom's running, right? He's actively running right now. I think Chris Murphy is going to be a very interesting and attractive candidate for a lot of reasons, right? He's going to click a bunch of boxes, but I think that Josh Shapiro is going to kick in the door pretty aggressively, and sort of push through that Rust Belt value set and see if he can't reconnect the Obama coalition. That would be his play. I don't know. Has anybody ever run for president harder than Rubio is right now from inside the administration with less traction? I can't really imagine it, but that appears to be what we're looking at. It'll be hard if Trump dubs Vance the successor. Nobody will run against him, I think is probably the case. But Rubio's going to want to.
Yeah.
All right, I think we've covered a lot of the other questions in the 9 here. So I want to end with this one, unless Rob has another. This will be my last one. Okay, you got to bet a mortgage payment against Rob. How many? You guys are playing head to head. How many strokes are you getting before you're comfortable that you'll win this bet?
12.
12. Whoa.
No.
I can tell you this: he ain't ever giving you 12.
He's never giving you 12. When I was playing my absolute best, and Rob was still kicking off the rust of his sort of first rounds of chemo stuff, I beat him straight up once, but it was like 80 to 79. Like it wasn't like it was a pillow fight for 17 holes.
I mean, if he gives you 12, I may get involved in that bet. I mean, I'm looking at your scores.
He's never going to do it. But what happens? So, 3 weeks before MG Cup, this might have actually been MG Cup when they had the temp green on 1. I drove the green, and Rob was still pretty sick at the time, so he slapped a 200-yard driver down there, and I 3-putted for birdie, and he chipped in to win the hole. So to let you know what we're talking about is that what am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
I can't win.
If I'm giving Jake 12, I'm betting on that match too, and I'm taking Jake.
I mean, look, I'll bet. I will bet getting 5, but I'm not going to bet a mortgage payment on it.
I've been preaching to Matt that the golf handicap system is the greatest form of socialism I've ever seen.
Yep. The better you get, the worse you get screwed.
It's a redistribution of wealth. Now, so, Matt, I've got a question for you. Me versus Trump, toe-to-toe, straight up. Where's your money? Are you capable?
I'm betting on you. Yeah.
All right. This is a breakthrough. This is This is the first time you've spoken against dear leader in a year and a half.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys are riding the same cart, playing the same tees, I'm taking you straight up. I mean,
Can I tell a fun story I just learned? So I was playing Trump International in West Palm Beach back in February, and one of the staffers who will go unnamed told me that Trump plays the blue tees from about 6,700 yards, which is where I play from, normal member tees. But before he arrives, they move the blues up to where the whites are. And he actually plays from like 6,100 or 6,000, which, in fairness, for 80 years old is still pretty impressive.
Still great. Still
It's
great. He's a
still-
good golfer.
It's still impressive.
I want to make it clear that I do. I mean, I do think that Donald Trump is a good player. I mean, I watched that whole match with him and Bryson. He hit some really good shots. He got it inside Bryson on multiple par threes. His putting stroke almost gave me epilepsy. But he actually made some putts too, though, which was crazy. My guess is that in matches, you know, a 3-foot, 4-foot putt under pressure, I'd like to see. I'd like to see how that putting stroke holds up under pressure.
He hasn't not picked that ball up in 40 years.
Yeah.
Like I've seen him slap a 18-footer and call it good.
Well, also, according to Matt, Trump is a terrific dancer, and he enjoys his natural smells after a long walk. And before you point out that I'm gay, I just want to point out to our listeners that more men have walked out of your front door this morning than have walked out of mine.
The
It's like
piano
an
tuner.
airport over there.
The piano. Well, hey, Jake, thanks for coming on. We need to do this again, and definitely we're going to get
Anytime.
some. We'll get you on Jordan MG Cup. I know we're going to do a lot of great stuff for all of our listeners. This week too is contest week. If it's Wednesday, it's before the PGA is teed off. Make sure you're going on social media and taking part in our contest to pick the winner of the PGA Championship. Follow us anywhere you get social media. Golf and Politics on Facebook and Instagram. Golf.politics on TikTok. Golf Politics Pod on X. Our subscribers and our views have been going up pretty dramatically, and that's because of you guys. We really appreciate that. Let's keep that going. We really want to grow this program. Tell a friend, but make sure you're subscribing either on audio at Spotify or Apple or on YouTube where you get videos.
And
Jake.
our ads are also our viewers are also going up because of our ad spend on digital ads. So thanks to the Jake Wards of the world, we are able to reach more people.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. Jake, thanks for being on, and we just really appreciate the time. Have a great day.